So let me invite Mr. Sandeep Verma, Additional Chief Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of Rajasthan, to share his viewpoint, please. A huge round of applause for him, please.
Thank you very much for this invitation. I'm going to speak on a subject which I understand partly, which is public procurement, and I'll look at some of the aspects of artificial intelligence and how they interact with aspects of public procurement. So essentially, two things that I talk about. One is applying AI in public procurement processes, and the other one being how do you do a public procurement of AI solutions that are on offer. It's an interesting subject by itself because I find in public procurement there's a substantial degree of absence of natural intelligence at times. So it's only fair that we use AI and do something better with it than what we end up doing. I'll just speak in my personal capacity. I do not represent the views of Dr. Rajasthan or anything else. This to me is one of the biggest, what should I say, bizarre application of AI in a public project because it started happening in India on a major scale, but I don't think we understand enough about some of the concepts. This is a news that I read about Bangalore police saying that we'll simply, if we find you've done a traffic violation, we'll simply take out the money from your bank account. No consent. No need to prove that you've actually done something, but if any of you have seen Minority Report, right? So this is Bangalore Police interpretation of Minority Report, where they say you're guilty by default. We've taken money out of the bank account. Now it's up to you to prove that you didn't actually commit a traffic offense. So I found that completely bizarre, but most interesting, because this is how some of us start misapplying certain principles in project design. Forget about public policy, because if you look at traffic offenses, even in the United States, when you get a mail saying you committed an offense, they'll give you an option. They'll say, you want to pay fine, fair enough, or you want to contest in court, that's all right, because you actually have a legal right to contest that in courts. Now here, Bangalore police is saying, we'll take away your legal right to contest in courts, and you come and figure out how to get your money back that you just taken out of that account. So I'll talk some of that in a sense, but first, AI applications, public procurement. I picked up applications in the government marketplace because there's a lot of stuff that's happening there during the last, I think, particularly last year, ever since Commerce Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal announced that we'll be using AI extensively, and it's a huge database, probably the biggest of its kind anywhere in the world. They're using AI to improve technical specifications and procurement options. So this is broadly what you could use AI for. And how it's being used in GEM is that when you go and look at products, it tells you what other similar products are available. And it tells you also that you want to buy this, but there are better products available than what specifications you've given. So this is how GEM is using AI extensively to improve one aspect of procurement, which is how to improve technical specifications. The second thing that you could do with AI is to improve competition in the process, or to improve buyer oversight in the process. And what GEM is doing is that it's identifying cases of split buying, where simply in order to avoid competition, we start procuring the same thing in smaller volumes, and therefore we place single source procurement orders. So the GEM's already doing that. So they're using it for split buying cases. They're also looking at historical data of buyer behavior and trying to figure out if the buyer is continuing to prefer the same supplier over and over and over again. So that they're using it already. The green ones which are already rolled out by GEM. The blue stuff is what is under development in GEM. They're doing it to see if there are matches. They're also planning to use AI for what they call overall bid health analysis, where they look at a procurement process and see, did you have enough competition? Did you have enough bidders? Did you land up in single vendor situations as a result of bidding? So some of these solutions are under deployment in GEM. You could also look at artificial bundling of BOQ elements. This again is actually, it's a blue one. It's my mistake, it's shown as white, because GEM is already working on looking at, are you buying an aeroplane along with furniture? Is your bundling of the projects so artificial, or are your BOQ items that you're buying are they similar in nature? So this is something that's being rolled out. You could also use AI for improving pricing of goods, and GEM is using it to identify cases of abnormally low bidding. It has plans to start looking at price reasonability analysis and also start looking at alternate platform pricing, which means I'm buying this product on GEM at X price. Is it available on Amazon or Flipkart at a better price or a different price? So this is stuff that they've now started work on that, but they will start work on something like this in the near future. You could also use it for improving contractor oversight. There's no GEM example here, but I'm aware of certain foreign country cases by public procurement organizations where they've run drones. For instance, they ran a drone along the Chinese wall, the wall of the Great Wall of China, and they could identify which bricks are not in position. They could identify how much maintenance was required. What a process that used to take them a month to prepare an estimate for an annual repair of the Great Wall of China now takes them 3 days using drones and using AI. So there are instances elsewhere in the world where AI has been used. I couldn't find a GEM equivalent case, but you could potentially do it also. It can be used for improving legal and regulatory compliances. In GEM, for instance, if you want to buy something, it will tell you various other MSME suppliers who are also offering the same product. And therefore, because there is a certain amount of procurement that has to be necessarily done from MSMEs under the MSME Act, it helps the buyer regulate his own buying behavior and see, okay, there is this product available from a different seller, let me go and buy it from them because I have a compliance requirement on my annual procurement. It also identifies equivalent Make in India products for you, and therefore you can comply with the Make in India preference rules that the government of India has put in place. You can use it for improving other procedural aspects of procurement decision making. During the formation of a contract, these are some of the potential applications that GEM is looking at. They have products which are under development for miscategorization of product catalog. So I want to sell a jharu, but I put it in some wrong category, so it will immediately warn you that there's something going wrong at the bid filing stage itself. You can have misrepresentations in product catalog where you promise more than what you actually have, so it uses AI to identify. And you could use it during contract administration, but I think we are yet to have a working example of that in India. The examples elsewhere in the world for that. Some fundamental characteristics. The AI is not my subject, but as someone who's interested in law, as someone who's interested in public procurement and public policy, there is this situation that we've been a net consumer importer of innovation historically. We're not a generator or exporter of innovative solutions. So where is this product coming from becomes important. Is it coming from countries that are not friendly to you? Those issues start becoming important the moment you start looking at as public agencies implementing AI solutions. There have been many recent incentives by Government of India in many sectors for reversing it. You have the PLIs, the production-linked incentive schemes, and so on and so forth. But this is something that sooner or later is going to start getting discussed. Europe is already looking very seriously. The Americans don't regulate AI too much because the companies are American, most of them. Right? But Europeans have decided that they will have a regulator for AI in public projects, and you have to take approval of the regulator before you start implementing AI in public procurement or public projects in Europe. So some of this political stuff is going to start impacting some of the procurement stuff as you go along. There's an intrinsic honey trap of innovation or shiny object syndrome that we have. It's like kind of, let's use AI for something, let's use AI in this. I gave you the Bangalore police example. As I said, I find it bizarre, but it is what it is. Everybody wants to do something innovative, and then they sometimes go overboard. And I think it's kind of like iPhone 14 scenario that, the day you buy an iPhone 14 Pro, you're already poor because the rumors for iPhone 15 Pro are already there in the market, right? So you already feel that I made a procurement mistake already. Different AI solutions can have different switchover costs. you can have vendor lock-in or near vendor lock-in situations. So those are some of the things that happen typically with strategic IT complex projects in public procurement or public projects anyway. And some of that will start reflecting some of what is happening in AI as well. The other thing that I think many public policy managers don't get it is that AI actually consumes a huge amount of information. It consumes more than what it spits out. What you really get, when you look at ChatGPT generating a poem and get sentimental, excited about it, it's giving you a poem, but it's already consumed thousands and thousands of poems already, so it understands what poem writing, poem making is all about. So it's consuming a lot of information. Are you getting value for money? Are you getting intelligence which is value for money for the amount of information that you give into an AI solution? Some of that will become important. Unlearning, I mean, we talk of machine learning, but there's something called machine unlearning. It started off in Europe with the right to forget. The FTC in the United States, the Federal Trade Commission, has one instance where they have successfully got a solution or an algorithm to unlearn the information that they learn. So there is one FTC case around the world right now where they picked up concepts from Europe and put it in their public projects. So some of this is going to become important, especially because I think of public projects as wicked problems. They're very complex problems. You try and control one part, something else becomes important. They're not usual two-player games of chess that you're playing, multiple player games that you play. It's public projects have an intrinsic thing that you need to take decisions every day. And you take decisions amidst huge amount of chaos and uncertainty or reliability of information. You have serious information asymmetries going around this system. There's no such thing called a constancy in the world. The world is changing. So by the time you think of a solution, the problem itself has transformed itself. Or you apply a solution, the problem changes to a new problem. So some of that will keep on becoming important. I think I'll run through some of this, which is public procurement of AI. And how does, if you're a government officer in MP or Chhattisgarh, you want to implement AI, what kind of contract clauses do you need to have in place while you're tendering for your public project, to issue an RFP for a project, which is going to have AI built into it? Are there AI specific clauses? The city of Amsterdam has a 200-page clause on using AI in public projects, but how many of us will read 200 pages in some of the countries? You would pick off, but increasingly as we start implementing AI, some of the public procurement issues are going to become very, very important as to what are the data confidentiality clauses in your public project design, how you transferring information to whom, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to skip some of this. We have more time to discuss this probably in the question and answer session. But it becomes increasingly difficult because if you start looking at it, it's very difficult to say where did ChatGPT learn this poem from, right? Where this information is coming from. Biases and errors can multiply at a scale that has not been imagined before. It can become risky or difficult to control the errors of bias. If you're implementing, let's say in Tamil Nadu, AI-based predictive facility for telling you, look, this is what the weather is looking like, this is probably the crop you need to sow. Now, if you have errors built into that AI solution, then you could actually be giving very, very incorrect solution to your farmers. How do you control some of that risk? You end up with risks of bias and risks of error. How do you control these two risks in public projects? So this is something that's being very carefully looked at in the Western world. I guess it's going to take its time coming to India where we start looking at it. How do we even know where the intelligence resides is what will be given. AI impacts on agency resource allocation. The AI is giving you some intelligence based on which you are then allocating your financial resources. But what if there are biases or errors somewhere there? So these are probably some of the effects or aspects that one could talk about. I'm going to skip some of this and try and rush to the last one. But there's a curious case of piloted solutions that happened. It happened in many countries around the world, where particularly during COVID, a lot of AI solutions companies came in offered solutions to the government free of cost. There's a case, I think, probably in the state of Minnesota, where the product was offered them free of cost. But when the 1 year license expired and they went in for renewal, it cost them $24 million to renew that lease. So it wasn't really free in that sense. So I see a lot of implementations in India happening where lots of products are being given to us free of cost, and we take them up, we implement pilots, and then we, without realizing, we can actually got bound to certain technology solution providers. So some of those issues will start happening, will have to be taken care of. I think I'm going to skip some of this. You'll find in the presentation slide what's happening in the United States on AI in public projects. There's a lot of interesting stuff, particularly EU, because they're very sensitive about privacy. They're taking a risk management approach. So they see use of AI as highly risky, and they're going to categorize AI applications as to what is high risk and low risk. Canada has a system where before you implement an algorithm system, you have to do an impact assessment. France, if you use AI in a public project, you have to put out the AI algorithm. It has to be open and accessible. It's mandated by French law. We don't really have complex things like that in India, but sooner or later it's a matter of time. It's all coming to us. What they do in UK is by itself interesting. There's something called PAG registers. It's a public law project tracking automated governance. And they look at every single privacy policy that's adopted in any given project, and they analyze some of that. So, so is Japan, so is India. We have a strategy for AI that came in 2018. We had committees that were formed in 2019. There are 4 committees. Unfortunately, they are still in draft after 3 years of their publication, but not been finalized as yet. And some of that stuff looks like it's been written by Shakespeare. It's not written by public policy managers. So we'll have to get there quickly enough. We have an AI task force. That is the first thing that happened around AI. I think integrity in all this process is going to become important, because just if we adopt the usual business as usual approaches, I think there will be questions around why we are deploying AI solutions. I mentioned the Bangalore police case, which is Minority Report, where you say citizens are guilty unless proven innocent. Right? And therefore, I think eventually it comes down to 2 issues, which is how do you deploy AI solutions responsibly, and how do you procure AI solutions responsibly. So, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sri Sandeep Verma, Additional Chief Secretary, the Department of Science and Technology, Government of Rajasthan. As you rightly said at the end, that it's all about how we take AI for public procurement, and how do we use that. There will be both the evil side and the good side of using AI, but it's up to us that how we can embrace that technology in terms of regulations and everything. Thank you so much.